Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Good afternoon, Tuesday edition of the Steve Jones Show, News Radio 1070 WKOK. Sean Carey here, and Steve will be there in the Sunbury Motors Studio. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai, North 4th Street, Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia on the Strip, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Lots of ways to get in contact with us. Our email is stevejones@wkok.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle at SteveJonesPSU. And you can subscribe to our free podcast. We're on the Apple Podcast app, iTunes, Google Play. Search Steve Jones Show. Hit subscribe, and we can drop the shows right to your mobile device so you can listen to them anytime, anywhere. And you always have access to 3 months of shows. We've got them archived on our homepage at SteveJonesShow.com. So we're with you live till 5, and then we will have our late day news roundup a little later on.
Absolutely.
Then you'll be cruising to Rutgers, and you'll be checking
tomorrow
for Joyzy tomorrow.
Absolutely. I think the hotel is next to a sewage treatment plant, and we're looking forward to it. Should be great. Yeah. Oh, I'm just kidding. It's only Rutgers. Rutgers.
Piscataway.
Piscataway, I know. It's interesting. Jim Delany. Did you see Jim Delaney's statement about how things have worked in the Big Ten with expansion? He was very honest. Look, they botched the expansion with Penn State in '89. That's why it ended up being a 7-3 vote. Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota are the three no's, just so you know. There have been always reports about who voted no, and most of them are wrong. It was Indiana, Michigan, and Minnesota voting no. And because they didn't inform everybody right away. They did it at the presidential level. As we've had John U. Bacon on the show before, and of course John wrote the biography in conjunction with Bo Schembechler. And Bo's always told him privately, he says, look, I like Penn State. He said, they're a good fit, the whole deal. He says, but he said it was the way they did it and kept us out of the loop that was bothersome. And that's what they were more upset about. Not that it was Penn State. But they botched it. It came down to the end, and they needed the 7 votes. Well, they got the 7th vote. The 7th vote was Northwestern. They had to convince Northwestern, hey, look, we're going to take Penn State. We're going to go with 11 schools. We're not kicking you out. As soon as they got that assurance, then they put Penn State over the top. And on June 4th, 1990, Penn State was officially voted in. But it was a contentious 4 months, 4.5, 5 months. Contentious 5 months. Because, I remember sitting there and watching it play out. I mean, because obviously I was here. I was here at the time. I've been here for a long time, but I remember how contentious it was the way it played out. A lot of negative comments about Penn State. Why are they bringing them in? And like the Big Ten is very rooted in tradition. I understand that. Some of it really good. I mean, in other words, I like the college football playoff, but there is no way on the planet. And again, this is the old timer in me coming out. There's no way in the planet I ever want to see the Big Ten give up its alliance with the Rose Bowl. I know the college football playoff. I got that. That's the thing you want to be in. But boy, if you can't be in that, and you get to go to the Rose Bowl, you enjoy it. You cherish it. That's the old timer in me coming out. My brother and I would watch that Rose Bowl game on New Year's, and it was a big deal to us to watch that game. New Year's Day, two of us watching it together, loved it. I mean, the fact now I've been able to get to 3 Rose Bowls has been incredible. So I mean, it's rooted in tradition, yes, and there's some of it I really back. Now, I know you have to take a modern approach to what's going on. The college football playoff, everything that goes with it. Now they learn again. It's amazing. Like it seems like they learn from Penn State a lot. They should have handled it differently. Well, when it came to Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland, they did. A lot of people have been very, very upset here, and I think justifiably so, with how everything was handled in 2012. Well, it's amazing. Some other things have happened down the road, and the Big Ten's taken a different approach. Now that's made some people mad, because they saw how Penn State was handled and have seen how others have been handled. But, I mean, you can't go around looking for vengeance in life all the time. If they're smart enough to learn from it, it just turned out when you're in that spot. Donovan Smith, let's get to some positive news of the day. Donovan Smith, a 3-year, $41.5 million deal with the Tampa Bay Bucs. The former Nittany Lion gets $27 million guaranteed. $27 million guaranteed. That's not bad. It's a good deal for him. He was about to be an unrestricted free agent. Ends up being a good deal for Donovan. Happy for him. 3 cents in the Adidas recruiting scandal. Let's see. The greatest sentence is 9 months. Those sentenced look like this. Everybody's appealing, but let's see. I just want to make sure I have all the sentencing right here. They were accused of funneling money from Adidas to the families of high-profile recruits to ensure they signed with the sneaker company and certain financial planners and business managers once the players turned pro. The defendant's attorneys argued for non-custodial sentences, but that's not what they got. The judge said he wanted to send a great big warning light in the basketball world. So, Merrill Code, Christian Dawkins, I believe it's James Gatto, the ones that were sentenced. Gatto got 9 months in a federal prison. Code got 6 months. Dawkins got 6 months. I'm trying to see if there's Kevin Herr's names in here. No. I shouldn't expect that, Sean.
I didn't see it there either. No. He's clear.
Of this.
Yeah. To be specific, right.
There are other areas we're not so sure. But that's what they got.
They just seem that just seems like slaps on the wrist to me. Just the way this is played out, and we first talked about it over a year ago, and this seemed like be something a little more steep and severe they would have received.
Well, there's more to it, though, because Code and Dawkins are going to get a second trial, and it starts April 22nd. And Code and Dawkins are accused of bribing 3 former assistant coaches. Book Richardson from Arizona, Tony Blandy, USC, and Lamont Evans of Oklahoma State. All 3 of those, by the way, have reached plea agreements. So they'll be able to testify in the case. They've already notified Sean Miller of Arizona and Will Wade of LSU that they will be subpoenaed to testify in that April trial. So the sentencing today has nothing to do with that. They could end up being in another sentencing if it doesn't go well in the next trial. Chuck Person is the other assistant coach, the former NBA player, who was at Auburn. So I talked about the 3 assistant coaches reaching their plea deals. He has not. Person and former NBA referee Rashawn Michelle are scheduled for trial in June. Person's accused of accepting $91,500 in bribes from a federal cooperating witness to influence Auburn players to sign with financial advisors and agents. Now, what Michelle's accused of, I don't know. All right, we'll take a break. Come back with more in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Neil Coulong on the show today. We're brought to you by Sunbury Motors. Well, it's really interesting when you look at the sentencing in this case. Not exactly what you call a baseball bat, you know? I mean, it's... Yeah, I mean, let's face it, 6 months in a federal prison is, still 6 months in a federal prison, but wow. I thought, I don't know, I thought they were going to get a couple of years. How about that? I mean, that's what I thought. I thought they were going to get a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking during the break, we're dealing with figures and numbers, 5-6 figures in trying to attempt players to go here and there, and now trying to recoup money back to these colleges that are upwards of 6 and 7 figures. It's like, that's all they get. That's now pretty strange.
It should be pointed that Code and Dawkins still have a second trial. So we'll see what, if there are convictions, if there are, then what the sentencing is there in conjunction with the sentences they already have. We'll see. I don't know. See, Landon Collins is a free agent. This has your team written all over it. You see the Steelers getting a Landon Collins, huh? What do you think?
Fit?
I'm telling you.
Smooth fit?
Yeah, I mean, he could help your team. There's no enthusiasm on your part.
No, I'm just trying to soak it in. Trying to weigh the pluses and minuses.
Okay, have you seen your secondary?
Sure have.
Okay, there
not
are
much
no
to
minuses.
not much to write home to mom about.
There are not a lot of minuses. They go to the parking lot right now and get comparable talent.
Just waiting for those picks to blossom, and guess what? Still waiting.
Waiting for those picks to blossom.
Yeah.
Okay, there's not enough Miracle Grow in the world. What the heck are you talking about? I mean, you could make Miracle Grow your doggone sponsor, and there's not enough.
More fertilizer than Miracle Grow.
Yeah, got that right. There's plenty of unvarnished fertilizer there, yeah. Unbelievable.
So it just makes you wonder where they begin with the draft board in the war room. I mean, do you start in the secondary, or do you still look for that outside pass rush? And they've attempted to, lock that up the past couple of years.
Well, I think free agency will tell you where they're going to go. If they're able to do a good job in free agency where they feel comfortable that they've improved themselves, because you're not going to get, oh my goodness, they signed this guy, they're over the top. That's not going to happen. But if you can get some players that can fit in, solve some problems, then I think it takes you in a direction on the draft where then you can try and hit the home runs and fix it. But right now, and then, of course, there's the Antonio Brown deal. I'm just, I don't need football. Well, for a guy that gripes about money all the time and so forth, guess what? I think you actually do need football. At least you need the financial part of it. He doesn't need football.
He makes no sense whatsoever.
Boy, awfully critical of your guy.
But the thing is, where is he going to find a better pairing, another better quarterback than Ben in the league? I mean, who else will? I mean, the more he puts his foot in his mouth, I mean, what other team in the league will take a flyer on him?
Look, let's be honest about
Raiders, Cardinals.
But let's be honest about it. Antonio Brown is a great player who has helped make Ben Roethlisberger great.
Absolutely.
Okay? Ben Roethlisberger is a great player who has helped Antonio Brown become a great player.
Sure did.
They both helped each other. When the Steelers had Mike Wallace, they had to pick a guy where they're going to invest their money. They picked Antonio Brown. And they've given him other contracts along the way. Steelers have been pretty good to Antonio Brown. And Antonio Brown, to his credit, let's always remember, Antonio Brown has always played hard. There is not a game out there where you look at Antonio Brown and you'll say, I feel like he dogged it today. Nope, you can't say you cannot say that about him. He always plays hard. Now, there are some people that mentally take days off, and then by the end of the month they try to cobble together some numbers and make it look good. Oh wait, that's a radio station.
True, yeah.
Yep. Oh my goodness, it's March 30th. I've got to do something. I'm crunching numbers. You're crunching something. Nathan Davis next half hour. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you. The other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
By the way, Joe Lenardi on the show on Thursday, Mike DeCourcy and Tony Knopp tomorrow. Did you hear the Mark Lawrence promo there about recipes for Lent? I may have told this story before, but obviously, if you are a Catholic, and I am, you can't have meat on Fridays during Lent. Now, it used to be, they actually modified the rule. It used to be that all year you couldn't have meat on Friday. So my mother would make on Friday recipes a macaroni tuna salad, right? My father was Methodist. So for 20-something years, every Friday, we always had this. Every Friday. And one night we sit down at the table on a Friday night, and my mother brings out the big bowl of macaroni, tuna, and then, she'd throw a vegetable like peas in there or something like that. She puts it down. Right? My father scoops it out, puts it in his plate, looks at it, and goes, "Barb, I'm sick of this crap." No, for all we know, with my father was.
So were you and your brother staring at each other and said, "He crystallized our thoughts eloquently"?
Well, no.
Past statute of limitations. You can bring that up now if you want.
My father was a quiet man, and he couldn't. For all we know, he was thinking that for 12 years, and never said anything. Now, I'd like to admit that my brother and I did not sit there and laugh. Later, we did. But in that moment, we're like, "Oh, this isn't going well." And with that, we bring in the head basketball coach at Bucknell, Nathan Davis. Coach, it's great to have you back with us.
Thanks for having me on. I don't think I can top that story, though.
No. The best ones are the true ones. You know that.
Absolutely.
Let's start with a truism. You are number one in the Patriot in adjusted defensive efficiency. What is it about your concepts that your players have really adapted to that it's allowed you to be efficient defensively?
Well, I think that we have a versatile group this year, and so actually we've adapted a lot and adjusted a lot of stuff this year based on what our strength is. And we can put a number of guys out there that are that 6'4" to 6'8" range, and so we've gone on to switch a lot more stuff. And I think our guys' communication and talking through things and playing things the way they're comfortable with has really allowed them to flourish.
Now the next part. Your offense has still continued to be efficient. You're well above 1 point per possession in terms of efficiency. What has your offensive efficiency meant to your defense because it's allowed you to set it up by scoring?
Well, I think that it actually is one of those stats for offense that's been a little misleading. That we've had some games that have been really good and some games that have been bad. And in league play, we haven't been as efficient as I would like. And frankly, our defense has allowed us to stay in games. Like this past weekend against Army, we were at like 0.66 points per possession in the first half. We're only down 6 because of the way we were guarding. But when we're certainly moving the ball and putting pressure on the other team's offense, it helps your defense out because there's a lot of pressure on them to score. And I think you get a little more energy from that as well.
Development also means something with players. Nate Sestina and Kimbrel McKenzie, what has their development meant to your success?
Well, they're obviously very, very good players, and I think that their strength is that they're both multiple-level scorers and can hurt you in a number of different ways. And their work ethic, their commitment to the team the last few years, they, in a lot of ways, offensively, despite being very talented with the other guys we had to kind of take a backseat. And to see them come on and really play well, I think, boosts everyone's confidence in the program as far as what they're capable of doing as well.
Yeah, because you and I both know that when you're taking a backseat to somebody else and then it's your turn, not everybody steps up and makes the next step when they're the prime guy. That's why I'm impressed by the fact that these guys took that next step.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. We felt all along that they certainly were capable of it because they had shown glimpses before, but you never know when that's going to happen. Fortunately, with our non-league schedule, it happened early. If it hadn't, we'd have been in a lot of trouble, but I thought it happened early, and they kind of embraced it and allowed us to put together some good wins.
What has Avi Toomer meant to your success?
When he plays well, a lot of times is you can tell how we're playing by how he plays. When he plays a lot of energy and is flying around and attacking the paint, being the versatile guy he is, I think he's one of those guys that he's probably not going to get you 20, but he can be a guy that can get you that 10 to 12 points. He can get you that 5 rebounds, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He can guard your best player. He can the other team's best player at multiple spots. So he's a guy, when he's playing at a high level, we tend to be at our best.
Then there's Jimmy Sotos. His assist rate has been outstanding for you this year. Has he been an extension of the bench for you on the floor?
Yeah, I think he's getting there. I think that, and what's I think the most impressive thing about him is you look at him as a sophomore, like, well, he's been around for a year, but when we had Stephen Brown, he wasn't getting the opportunity to handle the ball, obviously, as much as he is now. And I thought early on he forced some stuff, just getting used to it, but he's adjusted nicely, and then he suffered an injury and missed about a week that he's playing through now and got a little rusty, but he really does a great job of seeing the floor. I think he's got a good understanding for the game, and the more he plays, the better he's going to get.
When you look at Nate Sestina and then you look at Bruce Moore, now sometimes two big guys don't work well together. How well do they work together?
Well, I think they're very good because they both have multiple skill sets, and they can play with their back to the basket. They can step out and shoot the ball. They can put the ball on the floor. And then you add Bruce is athletic enough to guard multiple spots that, like, offensively, we can take advantage of some matchups based on what they do well, and they can be in different spots, and you don't know where they're always going to be all the time, which certainly helps them be efficient.
Every team ends up taking on its own personality, even when you have the same personnel, Ken. Now, obviously, your personnel has changed. You've now seen a full body of work. What is the personality of this team?
I think this is a team that's intense but has fun. I think a lot of it comes from our seniors, and that they work hard, but they also have a lot of personality and enjoy life. And so I think this is a group that's kind of adopted that as well.
You were able to close out with the win at home over Army. Was it important? Any game's important to win. I got that part. I think you know that. But was it important just to get a little momentum before the tournament started?
I think it's always better to go into a tournament feeling good about yourselves, and we have a lot to feel good about. Coming in at least tied for first for the 5th year in a row, and I think it's 8 or 9 in the last 10 years means a lot. Going undefeated at home in the league play in the regular season meant a lot. Putting ourselves in position we can win another one, we get to 20 wins. I think all that matters, and you're always much better off going in with an edge, but also feeling good about yourself and what you've accomplished.
All right, so now, how would you assess the quality of depth in the Patriot this year, based on what you saw?
I think that the depth is the best it's been in the league. I think usually you would look back and you'd say, all right, there's these 2 or 3 teams that you know you're going to beat, and that's just not the case this year. I mean, we lost. One of the reasons we're not first is we lost at the 10th place team to late in the year. That's not always been the case. Loyola, who finished 9th, has beaten people. I mean, Boston University finished 8th. We lost to them, and they beat some other people. So you go right down the list, and it's one of those things where everyone is good enough that if you don't play well, you're going to lose, and that's not always been the case. As a coach, I wish it was go back the other way, but for the league, it's better that way.
Right. It'd be great where you had this, like, yeah, we're fine. We're good.
It's nice to look and say we got these 3 games, so you know you're going to get to 6. We don't have that right now.
Yeah, that's called the AFC East. Yeah, the Patriots. We're going to start the year 5-1. Okay, great.
Correct. Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, you don't have that anymore in the Patriot. You've gone through this situation where obviously, Nathan, you get into the opening game, into your quarterfinal game, and you have to await the winner of another game. How do you as a staff handle that, because it's not so cut and dried as to who it is?
I took a little bit different approach this year than we had the last couple of years, and yesterday, and then we're getting ready to go into practice today, is we kind of split both practices in half and are spending time preparing for both. And then tonight, so we'll know who won, and so tomorrow we can just kind of review whichever one it is. The good thing with both of these teams, really, we've played them both in the last 2.5 weeks, so it's not entirely unfamiliar. It's relatively new recently that we played them, so there's some memory of that, but we've tried to kind of approach it where we can take the last 2 days and go and get after each other and really look at kind of what both teams do, and then focus it down tomorrow when we know who it's going to be and just review what we've been going over.
Obviously, for the last 2.5 months, I've been watching nothing but Big Ten basketball, and 10 of the 14 teams in the Big Ten are in the bottom half of the country in pace. I mean, a lot of people don't realize Michigan's a slow team. Maryland is a slow team. We all know Wisconsin is, obviously. That's not the case with your team. I mean, your team has been one of the top 50 in adjusted tempo all season long. What is that pace meant to how you want to play the game, and what are you doing to opposing teams because of that pace?
Well, I think the first thing it does is it puts pressure on the opponent all the time to guard. So from the second we get the ball until we take, hopefully, the shot we want, they've got to guard us. It's not that we don't mind going late in the clock, but we don't necessarily want to commit to going late in the clock. We want to give ourselves as many opportunities to get, whether it's an open three, a layup, or a shot in the lane as possible. And so we do that by trying to get the ball off the floor quickly and look for them. If we can get one of those in the first 6 seconds, great. If it takes 26 seconds to get to it, that's fine too. But we just don't want to give you a chance to kind of set up and relax and catch your breath. We want to put constant pressure on you at that end to be focused. Otherwise, we'll get some easy shots, and if we can get easy shots, we're probably going to win.
Nathan, this time of the year, details mean so much. Every detail has a meaning to it at this time of the year. How detail-oriented has your team been this season?
I think that at times, and everyone goes through it, at times we haven't been where we need to be with that. I think that I like what we've done the last couple of days and really focusing in on the little things. Was it Joe Gibbs that said in order to win on any level, you've got to be obsessive about the fundamentals and little things, and we've really tried to get back in the last few days to our angles for screens, our setting up screens, our spacing, our passing, our defensive communication, our positioning, all that stuff, because at the end of the day, it's probably not going to be a play we call or anything like that. Everyone knows what everyone's doing. It's going to be about guys executing and making plays and reading and reacting to what's going on, and to do that, you've got to be in the right position and do those things right.
I assume that you're one of the teams at times that'll run a weave up top, right?
No, we don't. You're never going to see that.
Yeah, not from you, huh? No, but there's some teams I see that run it. They get late in the year. Let's talk about the tails, and they'll run it flat. If they're running it flat, it's easy to guard. If you're running it at an angle, at angles, now it becomes hard to guard. That's the details we're talking about.
Yeah, we want every pass, every cut, every screen we set, all that stuff to be an opportunity to score. So we're not going to do anything where we're trying to really run clock or set the next thing up. Certainly it's going to set the next thing up, but if you're cutting through and you're not looking for the ball,
right,
it's not going to necessarily open up some other stuff. And so we work hard and talk a lot about how everything affects the next thing, and so you've got to do them right all the time.
How many plays do you like to run, or is it more concepts that are important to you?
We do a lot of concepts, so we really only run plays on dead balls when the defense is set. So we'll run maybe 10 or 12 a game, something like that. But it's more concepts that we're looking for through the flow.
All right. That's what I thought. All right. Hey, Nathan, thanks so much. I wish you nothing but the best of luck in the tournament, and appreciate the time you gave us today.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Nathan Davis, head basketball coach at Bucknell. I believe their play-by-play guy is Doug Birdsong, isn't it?
The one and only, yeah.
Yes. I was talking to Doug, and I said, what's basketball like? He says, there's just a freedom in the broadcast booth. I just don't feel in the fall. As much as I love football.
You can hear it, yeah.
Yes. Now, I don't know what he meant by that. Do you?
Kind of. A little subliminal message thrown in.
You, Sean Carey, are my hero.
The problem is, I never got that on tape. We still have a few games left in the year to make that happen. So.
Oh, he'll do that. Believe me. Oh, believe me. The season is still young for the Duggar.
That's right.
As far as we can tell, he just seems so free and happy, and he loves football as much as he loves basketball. What's the difference, Sean? Let's think about that for a moment. And we'll take a break as we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK. I assume that's the Bucknell Marching Band. I think the part where we think they say root for the blue, I think it was root for the suit, isn't it? Sounds the same.
Rave for the suit and the blue.
Yeah. let's see, current NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, very concerned about the mental health of his players. Silver told the Ringer's Bill Simmons during an hour-long panel discussion at the 13th annual MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference on Friday that a lot of these players are very unhappy. He says, and that really surprises me. He said, while the fans presume the players are hanging out and devising ambitious plans so that they can play on the same team, Silver stresses that's hardly the case. He said, I think it's less calculated than a lot of people think. The reality is that most players don't want to play together. They have enormous jealousy among players. In his observations and meetings with players, Silver said he has discovered there are pervasive feelings of loneliness and melancholy across the league. He said Michael Jordan's final season with the Bulls, he said, was a paragon. He said he no longer sees the high level of camaraderie or team building that once existed in previous years. If you're around a team in this day and age, there are always headphones on. He's right about that. The players are isolated, and they have their heads down. He's right about that, too. Part of this is, I think part of the root of this is the youth of the league. A lot of the stars come into this league. You know, when we're talking about the one and done, how many times have you heard me talk about, look, I understand what they're doing with the one and done thing here. I got that part. And I've been saying, hey, okay, fine, then let them go out and go in at the age of 18. But how often have I told you that if I'm running the NBA, idealistically, I know it's not realistic, but idealistically, I want an older league. I want an older league. And I think if you have an older league, you don't have this kind of problem. You're more mature. Okay? You're more, if you're more mature, you're more settled in life. Silver emphasized these feelings are very real, even though the outside world might be skeptical because of the fame, the money, and the trappings that go with it. And it's true. You're going to find people that are going to see this or hear it and say, please, these guys are multimillionaires. Give me that problem, all right? Oh, come on. Cry me a river on your problems. But, a lot of these kids in the ages of 19 to 23 years of age, of which there are a lot of them in this league, guess what? They don't have a lot of friends. They're kids. They're trying to compete with some of the older guys in the league, and some of the older guys, for example, may be married, have kids, they're more established, whatever, and guess what? They don't want you taking their job. He talks about the team building part. That's what's been interesting about Golden State. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Sean Livingston. They've all been together for a long time now. That's the kind of team building he's talking about, right? Golden State's being, now obviously they added in Kevin Durant, but remember, they put that team together. They drafted Thompson. They drafted Curry. They drafted in the second round Draymond Green. They signed and brought back Sean Livingston. They picked up Andre Iguodala. They've kept that team together for a long time. That's a team. They're also more mature now. Green, Livingston, Curry, Thompson, they're all older players now. And how many times have you heard me say that it's the older teams that win in this league? You don't have young teams that win in this league. And he's talking about young players. He's talking about the league being depressed. A lot of the league is young, and they are depressed. A lot of these players are lonely. They are. A lot of the NBA happens to be 13 players, 13 cabs. I know you're saying, hey, look at the money they make, cry me a river. But it's real. He's not, I don't doubt what he's saying for a second. Neil Coulong, never lonely, always real. He'll join us in the next half hour. We'll talk about one of your favorite topics, Sean. Antonio Brown. Woo-hoo. 8 more days until the new NFL year begins.
Tick, 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 tick.
That means Antonio Brown Gone.
You're listening to News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury. You can hear us anywhere in the world with the Sunbury Broadcasting Corporation app.